Hey, Lita, what you doing over there?
Oh, I'm just typing up the press release for the Healing Anxiety book.
I hear you clickety-clack on your keyboard over there.
Yes.
That's Mary Ryan's book, Healing
yes.
Anxiety.
We just did the awesome interview with her about meditation.
Yes, that was a fascinating book, about anxiety, stress, PTSD, how it can control your life. And this is a simple way to really get a handle on that.
Yes, and I love that people can learn about not just how to handle anxiety, but they can learn about the Tibetan medicine perspective on food and herbal treatments and massage and even
it's really
some
fascinating.
acupuncture.
And, we were so inspired when we talked to Mary about this book that we actually published this book.
Yes.
So, we wanted to bring these things out to the world. And some of the Tibetan exercises have never been published in the Western world.
Yes.
It's the first time ever.
I love them so much. I do them every day.
Yeah, me too. I do the head roll all the time. I know if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear us talk about it. So do you want my 2 cents on how to get people excited about this book?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Okay. I say give away the first chapter for free.
Oh, that's a great idea because it's the best chapter. It's a page turner.
It's a page turner. People will just really get into the book if they read this chapter. So go to healinganxietybook.com and I will make sure personally there's a button there that says free chapter.
Perfect. That's healinganxietybook.com.
All right, get back to work.
Okay.
Welcome to the Inspired Action Podcast. This is where we have motivational, inspiring conversations and interviews that we hope you'll enjoy listening to. If you're interested in creating more balance in your life, understanding your 5-element energetic nature, finding the path of greatest ease,
or releasing the baggage of this lifetime and discovering ancient alchemy that can help you fly in your life, join us and other inspired actioneers on this alchemical transformational journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Inspired Action Podcast. My name is Jay, and I'm here with my co-host, Lita Herman.
Hi, everyone.
Well, today, Lita, we have a very special show. We're going to talk about a conversation that we had earlier about meditation, and we want everyone to hear all the cool things we came up with. We often hear from people that we meet that this seems to be an elusive part of their daily routine, a seemingly magical skill that they cannot master, and they've just about given up on meditation, and they know they want to do it. They know it's important for their self-cultivation. They just can't seem to get a clearer understanding on it. So that's what we're here to talk about today. We're going to change all that. And Lita and I both have our insights on meditation, and we're going to talk about that as well. But we have a very special guest in the studio who happens to be super knowledgeable about so many things. But today we're going to get some insight from her on, can you guess what, Lita?
Meditation.
Yes.
And you're right about our guest having so much knowledge. We could do 3 shows with her. Before we bring her on, though, I just wanted to say this podcast is ultimately about self-cultivation, and that leads us on the path to going inside ourselves instead of taking pills and medications. And our society is just so obsessed with that. Every commercial on TV seems to be about it at the moment. So you're essentially, I believe you can be your own healer. You can solve your own problems by taking control of your own life. And so, if you're anxious, why are you anxious? Like, if you have high blood pressure, why is it high? And why can't you sleep at night? Or, those things that just don't happen to you, they're results of your life and the things that you're doing in your life every day. And they can be healed through other means than just pills.
Yeah, this show we're calling Meditate, Not Medicate. And it's about how you can find a way, any way, we don't really care, but we're going to work out in your life how to start to get meditation in your life every day. Now, before you roll your eyes and start to feel like, oh, I've heard this a million times. I know I should be doing it. I know you should be doing it. There's different ways to meditate. We're going to talk about that. But right now, we're going to talk about Tibetan meditation, some herbs, a couple other things that Mary, whoops, did I say who it was? Well, I kind of tipped a little bit.
Beans.
That's right. So we're going to talk about some great things with our guest, Mary Ryan, which we're going to introduce in one second. And, one thing that I learned with Mary that changed my life is this meditation, this exercise that Mary taught me. And we're going to talk about that as well. So she has got a lot of cool things to talk about.
And, I can't wait any longer. Can we bring her on, please?
Okay. So we're very happy to have, drum roll, please,
Dr. Mary Friedman Ryan.
Dr. Mary Friedman Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Lita and Jay. I am so touched to be here.
Well, Mary is the author of a really cool book called Healing Anxiety, a Tibetan Medicine Guide to Healing Anxiety, Stress, and PTSD. We love Mary's work, and we loved it so much. A while back, we decided to publish her first book with our new publishing company.
And, we just felt so in alignment with Mary's work. And, we were talking about what we could do with her work and that it just fit into what we're doing with our books and our publishing company, and that it would be a great thing to give to the healers that work with us already. So that's how we decided to publish this book.
Yeah. And, before we bring Mary to talk a little bit more, why don't you give her background? Because she's got an amazing background.
I would love to. Mary's just an amazing, amazing person. She went to Oxford University, got her PhD, a master's, human biology, medical anthropology. And what's really cool is she spent a lot of time in the early 90s in Tibet, actually in Dharamsala, where the Tibetans have been living with, where His Holiness the Dalai Lama lives. And she there collaborated with a doctor named Dr. Jamling, and she's also nicknamed Lady Dadan. And she is featured in this book, Healing Anxiety, which is partly my favorite part of the book, just hearing about her work through Mary's eyes. And hopefully today she'll talk a little bit about that. And it led to groundbreaking methodologies in efficacy research of the Tibetan medicine and how it works for people with anxiety and PTSD. And during her postdoc research on the treatment of Tibetan refugees and mental health issues, Mary was astounded by the effectiveness of Tibetan medicine for anxiety. And really, she's dedicated her whole life to it. I mean, she's still working with it. And so it's inspired her to train in Tibetan medicine and Chinese herbal medicine and acupuncture. And now she practices in Greenfield, Massachusetts. And she owns an apothecary called the Blue Dragon Apothecary.
And, we could go on and on about Mary and all the cool things she does. But you know what? We need to get this show started. So let's go. Let's bring it on, Mary. So Mary, we're excited. We want to jump right in. Can you give us another? We just read that amazing bio and it was very impressive. We kind of actually cut that short. It goes on and on. It's really cool. So can you give us your brief story of how you started in Tibetan medicine and meditation?
Well, Lita and Jay, thank you for having me here.
You're welcome.
Because I want to tell your listeners, as a witness and colleague of the two of you for many, many years, that these people walk their talk. Okay. And I actually feel very honored to be here and humbled by their presence. So yeah, let's go. Let's have some fun.
Awesome. Woo, let's go. Let's go.
Welcome.
I like that attitude.
Yeah. So how did I start meditating? Is that what
you
said?
could start, give a little bit. I know your story pretty well. So I know the story how you started in Tibetan medicine. But as you started in Tibetan medicine, when did the meditation start to really come into your life?
Well, it's interesting. So meditation I started before I studied Tibetan medicine as a totally separate thing. As an undergraduate at college, I was 19 years old. Someone taught me meditation at a yoga class. And then I had a really amazing feeling of serenity and peace. And I will teach that meditation today,
That'd
to
be great.
the listeners, because
Wonderful.
it's the most simple meditation in the world. And it takes me back to my 19-year-old self, who
That's fantastic.
beginner's mind,
That beginner's mind, we're going to talk about that because I think that's important. Because a lot of people start with meditation and they get that and then they get discouraged and they just lose interest and they just kind of I can't do it. I have the monkey mind, and we really want to get them to the beginner's mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Lita, we were talking about the book, and one of the things that we both loved about the book, it is such a great resource for people looking to just start out incorporating meditation into their lives. And I think of the book, Healing Anxiety, is like a blueprint on living a better life. There's so many different things about that book. So, Mary, if you want to talk a little bit about the book, that'd be fantastic. What was your experience before you wrote the book, and now that you have it finished, how do you feel?
Oh, Jay, thank you. Well, you and Lita were a big part of that. I couldn't have written the book without you, really, because a book is about its editors.
It was a labor of love for us.
It really was.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, thank you. So, before and after, what I really like about the book is that it has the groundwork of the actual background science on Tibetan medicine, the real earthy, practical, this is how your body works from a Tibetan viewpoint. Then we go into sort of the energetics of Tibetan medicine, sort of this higher, more subtle level where we give the meditations and the healing exercises. And then there's a little smidgen here and there. I'm not a Buddhist teacher, but there's a little smidgen, what we call in Tibetan medicine, the dharmic level of healing, the really high, little beautiful quotes from Dr. Dadan about enlightenment.
Yeah.
And when I read this book, and I've read it a couple times now, it's not a totally technical book, so anybody can read this book.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to be a Tibetan scholar. Some of the books on, Tibetan stuff, it's a little heavy. This is not a heavy read.
And you two were really good for me because I can tend to be, a little on the intellectual.
I was just going to say, in case you haven't noticed, Mary's a brainiac. If we didn't say that.
One other thing about the book that I love and that I go back to if anybody wants to do this with their partner is there are instructions for a very simple meditation retreat. So this summer we incorporated aspects of this retreat into our lives for 10 days. And it was a really beautiful reboot.
I love it. 10 days. That's not too long.
Yeah, it's not too long. And it's doable. And if
that's
you do
in
it
the book
with someone,
too. That's in the book. That's really awesome,
Yeah.
And the other exercise that I really want to talk about, we can talk about it now, is called the head roll. And this is this meditation that, is it more of a healing exercise or a meditation? I treat it like a meditation.
I consider it the easiest way to get people to a serene place.
Yeah.
And often anxious people, when they come into my clinic, I'm not going to be able to get them to meditate right away.
There's very few things in my life where I slow down. And meditation's always sort of forced for me. I'm pretty fast moving. There's a couple things that make me really go deep, like cranial sacral. I just love it. It makes me go out.
Yeah.
And the head roll. The head roll totally just empties my mind in a way that meditation doesn't. It's bizarre.
Where did you learn about the head roll?
Well, kind of a long story short, I learned it in Dharamsala. They were teaching it there. And then later there was someone in Oxford, this dude from Amsterdam that had a class as well. But so I learned them first in Dharamsala, and there was an actual place where you could sort of stroll in, learn them pretty easily as long as they had seen you at the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives. They knew you were pretty serious, you hadn't had sex that day or something. No, I'm just joking. But
just true.
That's right.
You haven't got too many negative vibes.
So you don't have the glow of just having sex.
I think the glow would be important, but
they want the meditation glow. The no sex glow.
No sex glow.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people have the no sex glow.
The non-glow, yeah.
Okay, so you went and you learned.
What I loved is, so you go and you do these exercises. It's only 3 exercises, and that doesn't sound like very much, does it?
No, not at all.
But it takes about 45 minutes to complete.
Wow.
And so when you start off the head roll, you're starting off the head roll, and it's this incredibly, glacially paced, so slow movement.
Yeah, I don't think people even have a concept of it, like how slow. I mean, how slow, Mary? I mean, when you first did, I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. It's very, very slow.
It's like an inch every, 30 seconds or something.
Yes.
Well, I know when you told me that, to move at a glacial pace, that was the key for me. It kind of helped me relax. It almost gave me permission to take the time to do this one task.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I can do this. And then you just go with this glacial pace. Anyone who has wood in the top 1, 2, or 3, this is a perfect exercise. Sometimes I do it just once. Really, really slow, left and then right. And then other times I'll do it 3 times, which takes 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Why don't we let Mary explain the head roll like you did in the book? I mean,
let's talk about it.
You did a great
perfect
job explaining it.
Yeah. I won't describe it as slowly because then the podcast would be over, but I'll just tell you quickly. So what you want to do is to stand with your feet equally apart to your shoulders, and you want to really visualize your midline. Okay. And that's sort of the life channel in Tibetan medicine. And you sort of loosen your shoulders. You make sure your head's sort of, wobbling in a relaxed way. And then what I want you to do is to put your head forward, and you want to drop your head down to the point where you want to really feel that your chin is going toward your chest. And then what you're going to do is to completely relax and take a few breaths. And then you're going to allow your head to very, very slowly relax to the left. And as it relaxes, what you'll notice is that your head goes down further. right? And then you get to that position, and then the next position, your head rolls a bit and it goes down even a little bit further, and you get this real sort of stretch and relaxation. And then as you go on, you're doing the circle around. And whenever you move, it's always about dropping your head and allowing the weight of the head to move itself. So it's not, none of your muscles are taut in your neck.
And I know when you get the pop, you told me, what was the pop?
That is air being released.
Yeah, like an energy netty or something?
Yeah, crackling and being released out of your body. And also sometimes they say, they with a capital T, Dr. Jamling and all those people, that we have a lot of stuck emotions. And also what you're opening up channels in the neck, nadis in the neck.
That's it. Yeah. Yep.
That connect the head to the rest of the body. And as you finish the head roll, you guys, I'm telling you, and you guys are my witnesses, you can even just do one head roll. Mm-hmm. Like I was on the plane to Hong Kong, and I thought, I'm just going to stand up. I was getting nervous. I was 25,000 feet above the earth. And I said, I'm just going to get up and do the head roll. And by the time I got around once, I was reconnected to my body, and my chatterbox mind had slowed down a lot.
Yeah, that's what, for me, it's amazing. You know, it just kind of, you don't even have to think about anything. Just think about moving it through those little clicks and wait. It's just an amazing little thing to do.
Yeah. And, you know, Tibetan medicine is the funniest thing, you guys, you know, like there we go. We swoop in there, you know, and it's WHO, and we've got all our electrodes we put on the monks, and we're like testing them. And they really do dry the sheets through chanting. Whoa. Yeah,
that's amazing.
That sort of thing. This is Tibetan medicine. And then there's things like, it's the simple head roll, right? Or like I'm eating with Dr. Dadan one night, right? And she cracks open a walnut and she's like, hey, look at this walnut. What do you think it looks like? And I said, I think it looks like a brain. And she said, and guess what? Walnuts are really good for your brain. Did you know that?
Yeah, wow. That is
walnuts are really good for your brain. And a study recently came out.
Like a brain.
No. It's sort of they prevent Alzheimer's. All of you go out and just eat a ton of walnuts. So,
wow.
So isn't that interesting? So it has this simplicity. It's like you're just sitting around doing a head roll.
Yeah. It really, and one thing we could talk about the head roll that I also do is we could talk about the incense. You turn this on to this really cool incense. It's called lung incense, and it's amazing. So I take a half stick, I light it, I do the head roll. So let's talk a little bit about the incense, the magical incense.
Oh man, Lita, do you use it in your daily life? Or?
Yeah, and I give it to my clients who are anxious all the time and they swear by it. They love it, and so we love it, having it in our clinic. Yeah. We burn it when people are very, very anxious, and it calms them down.
Yeah. And the incense, it's pretty special. So in Tibetan medicine, the lungs, when you breathe in, your breath is connected to your innermost vital force. So that's why if you want to slow down that over vital force, right? Lung, which means stress and anxiety, and it's also a force within our body. When that lung is out of control and is leaving sort of the places where it should be, right? You can use the breath, and you can use the incense, breathing it in, to contact that vital force and help soothe yourself, soothe that vital force. And the lung is a very complex sort of energy to understand. It's so very subtle, right? But the incense itself, so you breathe it in, and the main ingredient in it is eagle wood or agar wood, which is
my favorite wood.
Favorite wood. And it is sought after in Asia.
Wow. It's so expensive. We shopped like crazy for it in China, and the prices
it's hard to find.
Just outrageous.
The real deal.
Yeah. And so the lung incense, it relieves anxiety, hands down. And it's the eagle wood, the agar wood. So any incense you can get that has a lot, the primary ingredient is agar wood, it's going to help with anxiety. But the lung incense itself, we should.
Yeah, we're going to put that in the show notes, everyone.
We'll put that in the show notes, how to get it.
It's not that expensive, the one that we get. And it is it still made by Dr. Jamlin's family?
Yes, Dr. Dadan Jamling's family still make it
so
at
it's
her
on
monastery.
the box. You'll see that.
Wow.
And so we'll put that in the show notes as well. So,
And I just want to say, if ever, most of the time I can sleep well, but if I'm ever like, back from a trip, drank a lot of caffeine, I burn some of the incense and I do a head roll and I am asleep.
I know.
Sometimes
crazy.
before the head roll's done.
Just
And I don't
beautiful.
always stand. I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like can't sleep and I'm like in bed, I might sit.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's really fine. You're helping the mainline channel, that
Yeah.
goes like through the sternum and up
Yeah.
into the head, helping that to reorganize at the glacial pace we should all be going.
The glacial pace,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And that theme is throughout the book, the healing anxiety, the lung. And I know, Mary, can you talk a little bit more about the lung and what that means?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So there's a story where Dr. Dadan Jamling was standing, right? And she was standing right near a puddle. And then this man on a horse rode by and, he galloped through the puddle and went around in circles, around in circles, around in circles and splashing her and getting mud all over her, right? She's like, what the hell is going on here? And she said, hey, where are you going? And he's just going around in circles. This is a metaphor. And the man on the horse said, I don't know where I'm going. Ask the horse. And so that's a way to describe lung is the horse. It's the vital force in our energy that we ride, and we should be riding it. We should be controlling our minds. We should be controlling our emotions with reins in a very gentle, nice way, right? You can't hold too strictly to thoughts, and you can't let them go wild either, right? It's this balance. And so what that story tells us is that this whole book is really about how can we navigate this vital force within us so that we use it properly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go out of control, what Tibetan doctors call leaving its spaces where lung belongs in the body, and, wreaking havoc, like surging up into the head and causing our thoughts to go round and round with nowhere to go.
And
sort of
so
thing.
many people have that.
So
that's a
many
big complaint
people.
that I hear.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yes.
crazy. I would just say the U.S., but I've just came back from Hong Kong and I see a lot of anxiety there. And everywhere we travel, we just see it. And I think a lot has to do with the smartphones. This
I
intense
agree.
this anxiety.
They're probably stirring up the lung.
I think they are.
They're lung suckers.
Yeah.
We need to really build in an app that has the incense come out of it.
Now that would be an iPhone invention.
That would be a really good
We
invention.
got to talk to Apple about that.
But I do think that's the theme throughout the book, and you can work on that through the meditation, through food, through the exercises, and a couple of the exercises in the book you said have never been published anywhere before.
No.
But
Wow.
tell us a little bit about that.
You cannot find these Tibetan healing exercises written anywhere.
All right, so that right there alone is a
That
reason to get the book.
I recommend getting the book, definitely. And Jay did the photographs. They're stunning.
Thank you. It was just a lot of fun to do that, and I think they came out. I think they came out good, and I think they kind of really set the tone. We really wanted to make it such a when you hear Mary talk, she makes it sound so beautiful, and we just wanted to match that with the visuals.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
And something I like too is when Lita edited it, and what you really got me to think about is, well, one person's visual. So, you need the photographs for that. And someone else is very concrete and they're going to need, sort of straightforward material, in sort of a classical way, right? And then other people are going to need a story.
Yes.
And someone else is going to even need, let's put poetry at the beginning of each chapter or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I feel as though this is a book that appeals to many different types of people.
The way you just describe it, I think
to
we
all
got it all.
5 elements.
Yeah, all 5 elements.
Yeah. I'm sure. Were
great.
you thinking about that? Or?
No,
Wow.
but it's true.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
really
we
have
really did.
something for everyone in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
And
nice book, and you don't have to read it from start to finish. You can move that along on that journey, but you can read the story part. You can read the herb part. You can read the exercise part.
But everyone's got to read the
you got to
first
read
chapter,
the first story,
because that's the best story.
That is an amazing story.
You can't put it down.
I'm a wounded healer,
yes, it's how Mary starts. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I suffered from anxiety, and
yeah.
I talk about a few clinical case histories in the beginning. And I think anyone who, in our society, we're spending so much time in our head. We have got to learn to figure that out. We need meditation like nothing else.
That's what the head roll does for me. It clears my mind in a way that so many other kinds of meditation, and I've been exploring meditation so much, doesn't. You also mentioned another meditation that you wanted to talk about today that was one of the first ones you learned, or the first one you learned.
And you guys and you listeners, you may know it already. It's a really simple meditation. But with all meditation, I will say I started doing this new thing of when I sit down on the cushion, I really check in with myself now. And it's new for me and it's good for me. I'll often live life sort of suppressing emotions and things like that. So I'll sit down and I'll be like, how am I today? Where's my body? Ooh, there's the back again. Or, I'm feeling a little sad. I don't know why. I'm not going to go on trying to label it or name it. And that's something we do. Like our body may just be emitting sadness because it's biologically there. There might not be a reason.
That's right. We have emotions. So
we have
emotions,
coursing through our body. So you sort of check in with yourself and you sit down. And then you listen to yourself breathing and you allow your lungs to breathe at exactly the pace they want to breathe. And then you count it. And my lung number is 7. So then when I breathe in for 7, you then hold for 7. And then you breathe out for 7. But, sometimes it goes to 9, I find, It gets deeper as the meditation goes on, but you sort of stay within that number roll. But you keep that spaciousness. Like once you've breathed in, you have that count of 7 where you're allowing that oxygen to really roll around the lower part of your lungs. And that's supposed to really relax you.
So if you're just starting out, you might not get to a 7 in the beginning. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think it
like
depends
a 5
on your lung capacity.
You kind of be wherever you are. Does it change every day or you mostly hit a 7?
I think people kind of find their own sort of count of lung capacity or what your lungs like to do. You know,
so
athletes
no
probably
pressure.
have a 10 or something.
Oh, yeah, probably. So no pressure, whatever you feel like that you can get to.
Yeah.
I like that. So you want to just recap that. So you breathe in for 7. You hold it for 7.
Hold for 7 and breathe out for 7.
And maybe go a little bit longer if you can.
Yeah.
So how long do you do that for?
I do it for about 20 minutes.
Okay. So a newbie person, someone who's just starting out?
I would say start out about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then to 10.
Great. It's fantastic. So, you just started on this. I was going to ask you, you're, as far as I'm concerned, you're a big meditator. So what is a regular day look like for you? How many times do you meditate? How long do you meditate? Do you have a theme when you meditate? What do you do?
Well, it's interesting. Meditation is addiction. They find out, like they teach it to sort of opioid use disorder folks.
Wow. Boy, we need that in this country
so
too.
We need more meditation then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm dying to open whatever. I'd love to do sober work or something because it's so fun to get addicted to good things.
That is a good thing to be. So you can get addicted to meditation and this podcast.
There you go.
Absolutely.
You can change the order if you want, but yeah. So, okay. So, all right. So tell us a little bit about.
So what I do is I wake up in the morning and meditate right away. 20 minutes right in my bed. First thing. Just ring the bell, light the incense.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then I am who I am for that day. And I can really feel, I can begin to sort of smell the air and feel like what I'm feeling that day. And, we do have days where maybe it's just going to be a day where, I don't know, the emotions and the mind want 2 different things for the day, right? Like you've got to work that day, but you really want to just go off and read a book. But, so you'll feel the agitation or the energies, but then you've automatically pulled back from them and you've given them spaciousness and you're allowing the little kids to sort of, have their thoughts.
We're talking a lot about self-cultivation. So Mary's routine every day is to get right up and do her meditation.
Yeah, I find if I question it, then I won't.
Or you get distracted by life.
Yeah, so meditate every morning. But also at Blue Dragon, in my clinical practice, I will meditate when I get there. And there I do a simple meditation that's just, I offer myself up for service today. I know I'm not perfect, but I offer myself up. And may this day end, with people having been helped, and so that's sort of a prayerful.
So how long would you do that
simple,
for?
I'll do that just for about 5 minutes.
Good.
But then there is another meditation that I'll do at that time sometimes that I absolutely adore. And then I'll pause, meditate throughout the day. Anyone can do this, and this isn't meditation at all. But it's like whenever you switch activity, stop. Take a breath. Just do that.
Yeah, it's a mindfulness of your day. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. And I learned it from a friend who went to Thich Nhat Hanh's place in France. And I guess they do that. They're all making lunch and then suddenly they hear a bell and everybody pauses.
Wow.
And then they do it again and then everybody pauses.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
you feel the bell, you hear the bell, you say, hey, that's a bell, whatever it is for you. Yeah, I love that. That's being in the moment.
And I like in the book when you also talked about you can watch yourself do the tasks of the day, like eat an apple.
Yeah.
And you can your mind could say, I took a bite.
That's such a nice meditation.
How did you put it? It was so nice. There I am chewing and it tastes, I don't know.
Yeah. Chewing, crunching, breathing, apple. Delicious, and so then you come up with maybe an adjective for exactly what you're doing. And I like that one too because it's very poetic. It's to me like a constant haiku,
Well, I think
holding glass.
Yeah, it's that presence, being in the moment and not just rushing through your day.
Right. It really is presence.
Yeah, presence.
Yeah.
All right, so you get home from work, what do you do?
I don't know, have a beer? No. Sometimes I like beer, as these guys know.
You meditate while you're having your beer? No.
I know, right? Try to limit myself 3 days a week, have a beer. But otherwise, I'll come home. I live on a lake, so I'll look out. There's a wonderful outdoor meditation. It's not in the book, but I really like this. So according to, this comes from, it's a Tibetan meditation. Do you want a meditation on space that's really nice?
Yeah, let's do it.
So your eyes are open and you're at the beach, or you're looking out at the lake, right? So you always keep your eyes at horizon level because we're predators. We're like the eagles. We can look out left and right, behind and forward as far as we want, so you develop this spaciousness and you look everywhere at the same time and you try to really also send sort of your eyes backward and see as far back behind you. So you're breathing and you're in that beautiful space in nature and you feel that spaciousness. And then what you want to do is to listen. Because the earth has a movement of chi, just as is in our body. And they say that this chi comes toward your body at about 100 seconds, like an ocean wave toward your midline. And then it goes out again 100 seconds, like that. So that's more of that glacial pace, right?
Wow.
And if you really listen and you have that open spaciousness and you say, okay, it's like your brother talking to you if you played football growing up. Mary, go wide, go wide. You just
love it.
Go wide. And then, is the ocean coming towards you? Is it going away to you? Where is the chi of the earth and where am I within this space? And you can begin to feel the movement of the quietest of the winds, quote unquote, which is a lung, right? Wind, lung.
Yeah.
It's the quietest one, but it's the one we're really connected to.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really great. Now,
maybe you should explain the wind concept.
Yeah, let's talk about
we haven't
wind.
really talked about that in the podcast.
Yeah. Gosh, how do I do that? Okay.
Start small. Start small.
So there are 3 humors in Tibetan medicine. Lung, wind, tipa, bile, and bagan, phlegm, right? And those are the 3 basic constitutions. So wind is responsible, if you think about wind, right? See how it, like when a tree moves in the wind, you don't see the wind, but there's wind there, right? And maybe you can feel it in your cheek. But wind is movement. It makes the trees move.
Sure.
And in our body, wind makes, we feel an emotion and suddenly we're sweating because we're scared, right? So the wind is moving fluids in our body. It's moving our emotions around, right? So that's wind. And you also have a wind person, like a lung constitution person. And if they're a lung constitution person, then they can get an imbalance of lung, an imbalance of wind, and that's anxiety. Those are the people that are like, they're willowy, maybe a bit shorter. They're really into theater. They're into movement. They're moving all the time. They babble. They talk really fast and, that sort of thing. So that's the concept of wind. And then the other ones, you can imagine they belong. There's the moisturizing, mollifying, beautiful, sort of succulent bag-end person, the phlegmy, moisturizing, right? The rain, that sort of thing. Yeah. Water, and a bit more water and earth together. And then Tipa, bile, fire, the people that, like my husband, they scramble out of bed in the morning at 5 a.m. and they're like, oh, I'm going to retile something today. And I'm like,
take on a challenge.
You guys you go do that. And I'm like, are you going to read a manual on it before? No, that would ruin all the fun, right? So that's kind of the bile person.
Let the adventure unfold.
The adventure.
Yeah, I love it. That's and that is in the book. You talk about that a lot in the book. You explain the different constitutions and you help people understand what they are. You have different foods listed out. Yeah. You have different ways to identify that.
Yeah. So you can, develop a whole dietary regimen around your constitution, and that could help with anxiety or Tipa constitution. It might help you with if you have explosive anger, that sort of thing. You're just eating food that your body wants to eat. And you'll notice when you're in your constitutional diet, you're satisfied after you eat, like you're full because you've eaten what you need. But, people are combinations of constitutions too.
Yeah. Yeah. And, my 5 element self, we just did a 7 podcast series on the 5 elements. So,
oh, wow.
Maybe the listeners also are like, well, how does that work? How does that map to the 5 elements?
How does it?
Well, I've thought a lot about it, and I think it's best not to think of it as mapping to it, but to really understand that these are humors, not energetics. And and just for the people that have already heard, so if you think of maybe somebody more metally is the lung.
Oh, uh-huh.
And maybe the fire and wood people are more the bile.
Oh, right.
And the water and earth people are more phlegm. But to really think of them as essential ingredients in every person's life. Wind is just movement, but not a lot of direction. It's kind of like the leaf falling from the tree that we talk about in the metal.
For metal, yeah.
Yeah.
And when we need goals and direction, we bring in bile.
Right.
To direct that force. And then when we need to calm ourselves down and relax and not be so forceful, we need the bag end, the phlegm to come in and sort of pad everything.
Yeah.
Quiet it.
Oh, lovely.
Bring it back to some sort of homeostasis if it's out of control. So the 3 check each other all the time.
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
And so that's what I came up with. Yeah.
And it does. Like into the Tibetan medical texts, they say, Bagan is water and earth elements because they're into the 5 elements too.
Yeah.
And they're into the 5 elements like when they make herbal pills, what elements are involved.
Yeah.
Or how would you balance out a Bagan person who's earth and water? Well, you would use probably the fire element, because they'd be missing that element.
Right.
I'm sure that's in your practice as well. Or
yes, like when you say that the Bagan person should eat more spices.
Yeah.
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 To give more fire to their. Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. So if you're into that, the book is called Healing Anxiety, a Tibetan Medicine Guide to Healing Anxiety, Stress, and PTSD. And we will have that in the show notes. But you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble, all different places. But it's a really cool book. So I have one more question. But Lita, do you have any more questions for me?
I'm good.
All right. So my final question, if you could time travel back to the youth, you started at 19, but way, way back, what would you tell your younger self about meditation? Like that now because you've been doing it your whole life. So what would you like? Would you do it differently? Would you try to, maybe be more intense or just, I don't know, wing it? What would you do?
That's a really good question. Well, I remember I was 17 and a teacher said, I'll teach you how to meditate. And I said, oh, well, I meditate. I run.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And I wish I had said, I'm curious. I wish I'd had curiosity earlier about many things, meditation being one of them,
To be open to that.
To be open to it. And, guys, I do want to make it clear here that running isn't meditation. And to actually develop the capacity to soothe your own mind and come to a serene place, even if you're a prisoner of war, like the Tibetan doctors can. Well, they can't leave their cell and go running,
Yeah.
Or giving birth to a child. When I, gave birth to my kids, meditation really helped me, things like that. So I wanted to state that. And also in Tibetan medicine, what I would tell my 19-year-old self, well, they are immortal 19-year-olds, so
Yes.
they don't care. But Tibetan doctors explain you really want to learn how to meditate because that's all you've got when you're launching out of this body.
Yeah.
And
that's
if you
deep.
can't control your mind,
Yeah.
your mind could take you, well, what if you're dying? And this is the Tibetan treating death. What if you're dying and your last thought is like, gosh, I'm really mad at my brother. Well, you will take that karma with you, or you're really mad at someone. So then you will go and incarnate in your next karma, just like facing that karma. You're going to make sure you're going to talk to that person about what they did or whatever. So you leave your incarnation and you enter the next one with the emotion of anger.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that. You want to be in a serene place. And also Dr. Dodon said, I promise you that when you leave this body, she said, when you go to the mirrors at the fair,
Like a fun house.
yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you walk through in the mirrors and you see all these images on sides of the mirrors. Well, you're going to have mirrors like that when you die, and it's going to be your thoughts coming back at you. And you've got to stay serene and centered and not terrified.
Leah
about
and
what's
I, we
happening.
have this joke about people doing too much social media. And I'd be like, oh, they're going to be on your deathbed and you're going to look and you're going to go, oh, I wish I'd taken one more selfie of my food. Or I think, you don't want that. You don't want that to be your last thought. Okay. You want it to be inner thoughts. You want it to be peaceful, like Mary just said. You don't want to be like, oh, I wish I'd posted one more event or whatever. So keep
I
that
wish
in
I'd
mind.
liked that photo.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I never returned that text.
that's right. So social media, you got to let that go. You got to let go of that time. If I guarantee, we've talked about this in time management. If you do less social media, if you're on your phone a little bit less, you'll have more time to do some meditation. You'll have more time to find this serenity, this inner dialogue that you need to work on. So I kind of fibbed. I have one more question.
Okay.
So if you have some people who say, I've tried it, I can't do it. I have this monkey mind. I can't concentrate. I can't sit still. What do you tell them if they really want to try to meditate?
I would do the head roll then.
Yeah.
I would say the head roll has changed so many people in my practice.
It is a good place to start.
Yeah. And I was so moved to do the book with you guys because what I realized is I'll only be able to reach, 20 patients a week.
Right.
What if I could reach
Yeah.
the whole world with just the Tibetan healing exercises,
Yeah.
nothing else?
So you can do it with the incense. You don't have to have the incense. We talked about it with the head roll, but I agree. The head roll is a really good place to start.
Just to
Yeah.
clarify, I just wanted to go over it one more time because I tell a lot of people in my clinic about Mary's head roll. When you start one time around to the left, come
Yeah.
back to the center,
Mhm.
and then one time around to the right, come
Yeah.
back to the
And
center.
I think the 7 minutes to the left and 7 minutes to the right or ish makes it a
Right.
15.
Now
So
that's if you're going to complete
one.
one head roll.
Yeah.
So if you do.
But what she explained to me, if you want to do the whole 3, which is the best,
Yes.
the bomb,
So good.
go 3 to the left,
Yeah.
and then 3 to the right.
Yeah.
And that's
That
about
you can
45
do as long
minutes.
as it's, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So you don't go left, right, left, right, left, right. Or if you're doing the 3, or do you do left?
Nope. Just do it all together like that.
And the
Yeah.
other
And-
thing you said that I
yeah.
love, this is the most important thing to me, just my experience. When I get little pains in my neck
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just going really slow, and then, that's like
Mm.
ouch. Then you said, breathe into it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
pause for a minute and breathe into it and just let it relax. And you explain
Mm.
that those netties have to let go.
Yeah, you've got to give them time, let them open, and that's one reason it's so slow as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
So-
thing. So that's
Yeah.
a great place to end it. Thank you for the clarification of the head roll. And Mary, thanks for coming and talking about your book. You can come back anytime and talk with us.
Yeah, we
Well,
have
you're
lots of
welcome.
other
Thank
topics
you.
we could talk about.
Oh, I could talk to you guys forever.
All right. Thank you
well,
for
you
listening.
really inspire us. So thank you for being an inspiration, hopefully, to everyone else listening.
Yeah, it's a great book.
You
And
guys,
again,
I feel the same way. These are yogis. Hang out with these guys.
So the book is called Healing Anxiety. We're going to have some information on the show notes. And on the next podcast, we're going to talk more about meditation. We're going to talk about the 4 different kinds of meditation. And we're going to have a little bit more from a Taoist perspective as well. So, all right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Inspired Action Podcast, and you've reached the end. Woohoo! Woohoo! Why not celebrate a little bit and click that subscribe button right there? We love having you with us on this journey, and we want it to continue.
You can also rate and review this podcast. And if you have already, thank you so much. We read all reviews, and your reviews help other people find this podcast as well. You can also be a part of this podcast yourself by submitting a voice recording message and emailing it to us at lita@inspiredactionpodcast.com or jay@inspiredactionpodcast.com.
And if you want, you can join our Facebook group or follow us on Instagram.
Join us next week for another Inspired Action conversation. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, and remember to hug the dog.